Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel.
Tony Kurtz of R-Wonewoc is a Republican candidate in the 50th Assembly District. Tony, welcome back to WisconsinEye.
Thank you, Steve. It's good to be with you again.
On your website, you say you support affordable health care for all. Republicans in Washington are trying to repeal the ACA. You disagree a little bit with some of the leaders of your party in Washington?
Well, what we have to do in our district, and I'm very fortunate, the 50th Assembly District has some great quality health care. You know, we have Mile Bluff, which is in Mauston. We have Reedsburg Area Medical Center. We've got Richland Center Hospital. So we've got good health care. My focus is to maintain that health care. Okay. That's something that I have to do if I'm fortunate to be elected. So how do we do that? For instance, my wife is in the medical field. She's a nurse anesthetist. We are critically short of specialty doctors, specialty nurses in our area. Now, one thing Ed did, Representative Brooks.
Yes.
You know, Ed was very leading on the RWI, the Rural Wisconsin Initiative. And part of that initiative was to give grants, and it was a matching with the hospitals, and Reedsburg Area Medical Center took advantage of this, and also with grants from the state to attract those healthcare providers. That's something that I want to continue. Not only just do I want to continue it, obviously, for the doctors and specialty nurses, but I want to expand that. One of the things that we're hurting in our area is mental health. And we see that obviously throughout the state, but especially in a rural location like we're in, we've got to make sure that we attract those mental health professionals. And that's something that I'd like to expand that RWI with. Now, in addition to that, the other thing that we're very short in our area, also in the state, is certified nursing assistants, CNAs. Mm-hmm. You know, it sounds it sounds a little bit simplistic on my part, but I have another reason why I kind of want to expand that RWI for CNAs. And the reason why is if we can get a young person involved in the medical field, perhaps the CNA, hopefully they're going to continue on in that medical profession. They may go back and be a nurse on RN, or they might go back to radiology. There's different, to me that's a good building block that one, we got a shortage on. The RWI would be a perfect avenue to do that, to partner with our hospitals or nursing facilities. Our nursing homes also obviously critical shortage of the CNA. So that's going to be my focus, obviously, to maintain that affordability and those healthcare professionals in our region. That to me is one of our top priorities.
State government and Delta Dental have a program that subsidizes dental clinics in high poverty areas. Mm-hmm. Should that be a priority in the next Medicaid budget?
That's something we'll have to look at. I mean, I have to look at that and see. I'll have to look at the details and see if that's something I would. But I mean, obviously, you know, dental care goes hand in hand with preventive care as far as other medical ailments. So that's something I'd have to review.
Well, last question on health care. Mm-hmm. AARP estimates that 578,000 Wisconsin residents act as caregivers. Mm-hmm. Would you support laws or regulations that require hospitals to recognize and work with family caregivers when those they love are hospitalized?
You know, one thing, Steve, we've done over 10,000 doors. And it's very humbling when I go to a door and I've talked to those caregivers. I've looked them in the eye. I see the frustration, the worry about what it is in the future. So that's something that I think would be a good option, because obviously they're speaking for the vast majority of those individuals. So that's something I have to look at, but I think it's something I could support.
The impasse in the Capitol, or how we pay for our highways, mm-hmm. If it were up to you, how would you solve it?
Well, I want to go back to a couple things that happened the last 2 weeks, especially in the 50th. The 50th Assembly District is many rural county roads, town roads. We were devastated the last 2 weeks with the floods.
Flooding.
And I've been to so many town meetings, so many village meetings. I mean, these are costs that are going to come out of those township budgets, those village budgets, the county budgets. So, when we talk about our roads and infrastructure, that's something that's the backbone of our state. It's the backbone of our commerce. It's the backbone of our agricultural industry. So when we look at how we're going to fund our roads, that's something I think all options need to be on the table. The other thing I kind of, and this is something that the Juneau County Highway Commissioner brought up to me several months ago, it's the way we design some of our systems too. So for instance, right now a bridge, a small bridge that a county would have to put in, that bridge could cost maybe $300,000. There's other alternatives that they have now. They're called arch, different arch culverts, things like that. Those cost only approximately $100,000. So in other words, you take this $300,000 bridge, you could put an arch culvert in, and like I said, it's not going to fit all, but there is a lot of different bridges that we could go to this different system with. That would be a cost of $100,000. It's not only that, is the traffic congestion. So when a bridge is out, like for instance, between Highway 80 going to Richland Center now, just in our area, it's been closed for several months now because they're fixing 2 bridges, whereas an arch culvert could be fixed in a matter of 4 or 5 days, and our county highway departments could actually do that. So my point to you on that is, if there's another way we could do a bridge with an arch culvert, or there's another way we could do other road surfaces, things like that, that's something I think we need to look at. It needs to be part of that conversation. And especially now, when we have such devastation in our district between the culverts, between the roadways, it's a tragedy, because just when you look at all the roads we have to repair over the next couple of years.
If push came to shove, could you vote to raise the gas tax? And there wouldn't be any tolls in the 50th, but how about, what's your position on tolling?
Once again, I think everything should be on the table. I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not a fan of toll roads,
okay.
But I'm just being honest with you. But like I said, there's something we have to have a discussion. We got to have an adult discussion and get things fixed. That's absolutely.
You talk about the problems that local governments have paying for things like flood damage. Mm-hmm. Local governments have been living with levy limits mm-hmm. for 14, 15 years to control property taxes. Right. Time to keep those levy limits in place, or loosen them, or get rid of them.
This is my concern about the levy limits. In the 50th, if you look at our population, we have a very, I don't want to say old population, but we have a senior population. That's just fact. My concern, and once again, going door to door, talking to constituents, they say to me, I'm on a fixed income. I can't afford any more on property taxes. So I've got to look at that audience and the constituents in my area. And so, no, I think the levy limits serve a purpose. Now, what I do think is local aids, especially for rural locations. One thing I've heard over the last several months the governor talk about is the need to invest in rural Wisconsin. We've done a lot of investments in Madison and Milwaukee. One of the things I want to do is I kind of want to hold the governor to his word, because I've heard him numerous times say, hey, we're going to spend money now in rural areas, and that would be a great opportunity for local aid to help those villages and those townships, especially now with the devastation that we have in the 50th Assembly District.
Kimberly Clark has given the Senate till September 30th to act on a package of tax breaks and tax benefits that the Assembly passed on February 22nd. Mm-hmm. They want tax breaks similar to those given Foxconn. If the Kimberly Clark package was amended by the Senate and sent back to the Assembly, and you were in the Assembly, how would you vote?
Steve, honestly, that's something I have to look at. So, to be honest with you, I've been kind of focused on other things, and I haven't really looked at that Kimberly Clark deal. And I've looked at the Foxconn deal quite a bit, but not the Kimberly Clark one.
What about Foxconn? Would you have voted for it?
Yes, I would have. And, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I have reservations about Foxconn, but one thing I want to assure, and I've assured the men and women in the 50th that I've talked to about this issue. First of all, when I've gone door to door, no one has actually said to me about anything about Foxconn.
No one has? No one has.
Okay. But this is what now, in public areas and things like that, I have heard people come up to me and mention Foxconn, but when we go on door to door, that is what I haven't heard. But people have to understand, Foxconn does not get a penny until they have certain parameters that are met. And I think that gets lost in the shuffle, that people don't realize This is a great opportunity for the state of Wisconsin. It's a great opportunity for the 50th Assembly District. We have some companies that are going to benefit. Now, my reservations are this, and it's something I hope we're going to talk about later. We have an unbelievable shortage of workers in the 50th Assembly District. And so my concern is that we're going to lose people from the 50th to that Foxconn facility. That is my concern. That's actually something that I worry about, because we can't afford that. Our district, anywhere you go up and down the 50th Assembly District, people are hiring. We need workers. And that's something that I have to do if I'm fortunate to get elected, is I've got to go in a massive recruiting campaign to get men and women to move to the 50th and to highlight our strengths in the 50th, because we are competing with Foxconn.
Well, is there any bill that you'd introduce to deal with the workforce shortage in the 50th?
Oh, absolutely.
Excuse me for interrupting.
No, this goes hand in hand. And once again, earlier we talked about the RWI with the Rural Wisconsin Initiative, and this is something that Ed, and you and I have talked about Ed off camera. Ed was such a strong voice for 50th Assembly District, and he did it in a way. He wasn't a real boisterous person. Ed worked behind the scenes. Ed got things done, and part of that was the RWI, which is the Rural Wisconsin Initiative. One thing I want to do is make sure if we can attract young men and women, it doesn't have to be young, just men and women from out of state to move into the 50th Assembly District or rural Wisconsin, yeah, there should be some type of incentive program to say, hey, we can either, we can pay back student loans over a certain period of time, because we have to go on, and it's not just the 50th, it's statewide, but that's something that I want to focus on the 50th, is absolutely, there should be some type of incentive program to move to rural Wisconsin. You better believe I'd be for it.
In the current state budget, there was a big bump in state aid to K-12 schools. When you talk to your local school administrators in the 50th, do they say we need another similar bump in the next budget?
One of the things I'm worried about is obviously our rural schools. Like I said earlier, we are competing with the Madisons and the Milwaukees of the world, and it does concern me with our school districts like R-Wonewoc, with Royal, and yes, they have said to me, we do need help. And I think the big thing about funding is just make sure that funding is getting used in the classroom for the students. But no, they have mentioned that to me. So.
The voucher program, the choice program, was expanded, started Milwaukee, Racine, now statewide. Should it expand further, Tony?
One thing I want to talk a little bit about, the 50th Assembly District, we have some great schools. And the other thing that's amazing about our current system is a parent can choose where they want their child to go. You can have an open enrollment. That's something I actually did with my son, was open enrollment. I talked to a young lady at her door in Richland Center the other day. She has 3 children. She has utilized that open enrollment. We have a young couple up in Necedah. They do all their homeschooling. And that's one of the things that's interesting with going door to door, just how many people actually homeschool. Now, some of those people that are homeschooling are using the virtual tools online, and they could be open enrolled in, say, Wisconsin Rapids or a place like that. So I think right now parents have a lot of choices, and I think that's a good thing. Like I said, I think that's something that we need to continue.
The debate over corrections. 2 of our prisons were built in the 1800s. Do we need a new prison?
What we need in our prisons, one thing, like I said, we have 2 facilities in the 50th Assembly District. One thing, when I've talked to them, the individuals that work there, their concern and their morale issue is the lack of employees. Okay, so they need, and that morale suffers because they don't have enough people to fill shifts, and people are working overtime. Now, Steve, I want to just, it's not only just the morale with the prisons, but when I talk to all the different businesses in the 50th Assembly District, it doesn't matter if it's a dairy farm or a large company like Seats, which is in Reedsburg, they need employees. And it's interesting, going door to door, I've talked to a lot of people, some prison guards or people that work at Seats. They mention the same thing. We're working so much overtime because we can't get other people hired.
I see.
And so that's a morale issue, not just at our prisons, but it's also a morale issue at you could fill in the blank as the company or the farm. Boom, we can't get enough people. And so it's a good problem to have, but it's a problem that as a representative, I've got to make sure the state understands that. And like I said earlier, we have to, as a state, go on I mean, we're competing with other states. We've got to go on a campaign to recruit folks to our area.
Taking a position on whether it's time to legalize medical or recreational marijuana?
Well, one thing I want to look at is this last session they legalized hemp. And it's interesting because I have an organic farm and I got a hemp license. And next year in my crop rotation I plan on growing hemp. Well, with hemp you can get that CBD oil. And that's something I'd kind of like to check, I want to see if that will work first, because CBD oil has a lot of benefits that the medical marijuana part has too. And I said I would much rather try the CBD oil from hemp, since it's legal now, before we go to any other path.
Okay, and we're almost out of time,
Yep.
so do you want to quickly summarize differences between you and your opponent on November 6th?
Steve, one of the things I served our country for 20 years in the military, and one of the things I wanted to do when I retired from the service, I chose to come back to Wisconsin. I started a family, I started my farm. I believe in the strength of rural Wisconsin, and I'm very optimistic about our future. And that's something that I want to take to Madison, because I want to promote our area. I want to grow our area by getting so many other people to move and know how strong and great our communities are. And so I'm a very optimistic person. I'm excited about our future in Wisconsin, especially the 50th Assembly District. So,
Thank you. Tony
Thank you,
Kurtz
Steve.
of R-Wonewoc is a Republican candidate in the 50th Assembly District. The election is November 6th. Tony, thank you for talking to
Thank you.
WisconsinEye.
Appreciate it, Steve.
Thank you.
Campaign 2018 is sponsored by Wisconsin Hospital Association, Wisconsin Counties Association, Wisconsin Realtors Association, Marshfield Clinic Health System, AARP Wisconsin, and Campaign 2018 partner Milwaukee Journal Sentinel.